Good evening, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Sunday, the 19th of October. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right, okay, let's have a look. Now, obviously, the markets have reopened. We saw yesterday as well. On Friday, I was talking about the possibility that we might head down from here or might see a rally. At the moment, that is still unresolved, although we've seen a rally which has taken us much of the way back up to the prior high. That's encouraging. They've got currently no negative divergence, and I'm leaning towards this going higher. And this being a higher low here, but that has to be confirmed with obviously a break over this resistance here. NQ looks pretty much identical, and RTY looks fairly similar, although the overall setup is different. We did have a double top here that failed. We went and made a higher high, and I'm wondering whether we're forming a larger topping pattern. You might be looking at this head and shoulders here as a possibility, but it isn't actually, because it would really only relate to this move up from here, and it's wildly oversized because it's got this sort of all this activity above the the left shoulder here, so which in my view invalidates it. All right, looking at YM. YM looks pretty much the same as ES and NQ. We went down, made a higher low, and we've gone back up, and we haven't come back over the previous highs yet. I'm thinking more than likely it's going to do that, but we will see. DAX, nice rally off the lows on Friday. ESTX, we still got this double bottom, which still has a target back at a retest of the prior high, and it hasn't made that yet. That is actually not that far away. All right, let's have a look at the big picture charts. Okay, now let's see on SPX ADP, where we've been in sort of no man's land really. When we get down to near the minus 25 level, that tends to be a good area to buy. Here, this tends to be a good area to sell. At the moment, it's nowhere. Now, I've been having a look. Now, I promised a post, and I'm going to be doing a post looking at how would the setup be for a large high here? And it's not bad, but we haven't actually quite reached the resistance trend line here, which I've been watching. Looking at SPX on the weekly chart here, it did get pretty close, maybe, but I think it's still a little short of a hit. But potentially yes. In terms of the pattern here, actually, I was looking at this. I'm going to have a closer look at this tomorrow because this is suggesting that we have seen it hit, but we will see. But I think if we have a look at this, it's a question about how you draw the line. I tend to take a fairly purist line over these, so I'd be inclined to put it more like that, where it hasn't quite hit yet, and to hit, it would need to go slightly higher. Looking at the daily charts, we've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the Qs. We've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed on Dia. In terms of the daily middle bands on Friday, we closed slightly below it on SPX. Now, this is the key, really. We need to get back over the daily middle bands. Now, we've had NQ's been a bit back above it, and IWM's been back above it, but we're missing SPX and we're missing Dia. So if we are going to see retest the high on SPX and the Qs particularly, we need to see those back over the daily middle band. On the Qs we closed slightly back over again, but obviously this was a close above, close below, close above, close below, close above. Obviously, we are trading through the daily middle band. It needs to actually get it and hold it and confirm it the next day. So far, it's been unable to do that. Looking at Dia, we saw a close just below the daily middle band again. And IWM went back and retested the daily middle band and has held that as support so far. All right, looking at NDX in terms of could this be a high? Yes. I've got a nice looking trend line here. It doesn't necessarily need to hold, and one thing we would often see in this situation is a bearish overthrow, and we haven't got a bearish overthrow so far, but we don't technically need one. But do we have a decent trend line here suggesting that we might be finishing the move from the 2009 low? Yeah, it's not bad. Pretty decent actually. So we will see how that goes. But we haven't got a lot of negative divergence. We could get a lot more decent divergence with some retest of the high, which is one reason I'm looking for that. But also it's because topping is a process. It doesn't happen all at once. Looking at Dow. We haven't reached the obvious trendline resistance, but we don't need to reach it. But that would be obviously the next target above if this goes higher. Do we have a potential topping pattern here already? Yes, this is a potential double top, although obviously this could also be a potential head and shoulders forming. But in terms of large topping patterns, do we have one on SPX here? No. We would need either a significant pullback and then a high retest, or we need to come down to this level here, possibly if we were in a major reversal, and form a right shoulder and then go lower. We will see. In terms of NDX, do we have a topping pattern here? Not really. It could be a very asymmetric double bottom, but really I'd be looking for some other sort of pattern to form. Dia has a decent one. IWM has a pretty decent one too, so let's have a look at that one. IWM, we don't need to reach a trend line here. We've already got a pretty decent one. And what basically we've done here is set up a potential double top. And now I'd be inclined to use this trend line here, this neckline here, rather than this neckline here, because I will tend to use the two highest highs. But is this already a pretty good looking and very large double top? Yes, it is. Because one thing I'm considering next year is that we may see a major reversal, or possibly even a crash. So I think AI is a bubble, and the question is how far has it got to go? How far has it got to go? But Greenspan said in 96, 97 that it was hard to identify a bubble. And he's wrong about that. It's not that hard to identify a bubble. It was pretty obvious then. It was pretty obvious for the 2007-8 crisis, and it's pretty obvious now. The thing that is hard is to work out when these things finish, and that is tricky. So is this close to finishing? Maybe. And these aren't bad setups for it, but really I'd like to see a better setup, and I'd like to see some decent, more short-term topping patterns form. And one of the things I was talking about last week was before we would see that, we would generally see a hard breakdown. And really, probably the best way to show that is with the SPX 45 DMA chart. Generally, really what I'm looking for here is a break below the 45 DMA that goes down significantly, then ideally a retest the high or possibly a right shoulder forming, and then we've got topping patterns. And this would often, what you would often see, and you actually saw obviously before the high in 2021, you saw a break below, a retest of the high, and a fail. When you were seeing the high earlier this year, you saw a break below, a retest of the high, and a fail. 70% of all highs on SPX are some kind of double top. So really, that's what I'd be looking for. So if we did see a hard breakdown here, I wouldn't be thinking that the high was in. I'd be thinking probably that the high might be in, but we'd more likely to see a retest. But I'd be watching very carefully at that retest to see if it was going to fail. And if it did, then that would be the start of a move down. I have been, it's a little early, and I'm still leaning towards seeing a high in December or January. We are getting pretty close to December at this stage. And looking at the chart for the April low, how good is this rising wedge? It's actually very good. It's very good indeed. And this could well have topped out already. This could be a head and shoulders forming, taking us for a move down, but I'd still be leaning towards a larger pattern forming. We've got a possible head and shoulder neckline here in the 6200 area. We've got another one down here in the 5950 area. Both of these would be good contenders, and actually, although the right shoulder's a little light on this one, I'd mainly if we see a head and shoulders, I'd mainly be looking at this trend line here. And if we see a retest of the high, we'd see a decent retrace, possibly make this head and shoulder target, then retest the high, and then we'd have a decent looking double top. All right, let's have a look at DAX and Nikkei. I will be doing a post about this next week. I've got a lot of posts lined up for next week, so I'm actually planning to knock out about 2 a day. Looking at DAX, we went through the trend lines here, and I haven't got any decent trend lines that are looking particularly good on DAX. But what we have got is a decent divergence on the monthly chart. We've got divergence on the weekly chart. We haven't really got much on the daily chart because this daily RSI 14 sell signal has already reached possible near miss target. But short term, we've got a pretty nice looking level top and a nice looking head and shoulder neckline, which should be a possibility just below that. We've just broken below the daily middle band, and I'm leaning towards seeing delivering another retest to the high, but of course we could go down, and we're getting pretty close to double top support. Europeans and the Europeans have not been strongly linked, and actually they're up about twice as much as the American markets this year in a kind of readjustment, because sometimes the European markets are more highly valued in terms of PE. At the moment, the US is close to a high, but it's been coming off that high all year. The US is up about 15%, and the Europeans are up about 30%, and that was some of that difference coming off, but only less than a third of it, I think. Looking at Nikkei, bigger picture, through all the trend lines there too. So really, I'm watching divergences. Don't really have anything on the worth to mention. We've got an RSI 14, weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed here, and a possible RSI 14 main monthly sell signal brewing, but I'm not sure it amounts to a great deal so far. We've got nothing on the weekly chart. In terms of government, I think the Japanese have managed to form a new government, leaning towards seeing a retest here. That could set up a double top, but it doesn't need to. And at the moment, I'm out of possible resistance trend lines, and I'm watching to see where the next one lands to see if it gives me a decent clue in terms of the current trend line and pattern. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. DX, is this a bull flag? Maybe. This is kind of looks like a bull flag with an underthrow, but it may be that we're actually breaking down. We have got a 6-minute buy signal fixed. That's most of the way towards the possible near miss target already. I would like to see this head up on the bigger picture and head up towards the break up from the double bottom and head up towards the target slightly over 104. Still, the jury is currently out on whether it does. I would say, though, that the USD JPY flag that I was looking at just expanded into this flag megaphone and still looks great. That is supporting a move up, but obviously we'd need to break up over this flag resistance, which it's heading back to at the moment. Not a lot of help really on the others at the moment, so it's kind of a mixed bag. But the USD JPY is encouraging for dollar turning back up, which is what I would like to see here. All right, let's have a look at how that would look. Okay, here, we've got the overall bull flag here. We've got some decent resistance, monthly middle band, 50-week moving average, 50-month moving average in the 102.5 area. And we've got a possible level bottom, which hasn't broken up yet. But if we see a break up over 100.26, we would have a target in the 104 to 104.5 to 104.15 area. I think this has got a decent shot. When we get up there, then we will see what the odds would be in terms of getting up to the retest this, not this high, but on this high here, 114.78, because this bull flag is suggesting that we'll see a move up to that. Not sure this is a promising fundamentals backdrop for this move, and it may be this move will fail, but I'm pretty good about it getting it back up to 104, and I think that's got a very decent shot of delivering. In terms of the weeklies, we've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fix. We've got an RSI 5 buy signal, which has already made target. On the monthly, we've got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing, so I'll be very interested to see where this closes at the end of this month. That will be significantly supportive if that actually fixes at the end of this month. We will see how that goes. In terms of the others, Euro and GBP obviously have mirror bear flags pretty much to the bull flag on DX. So those are supporting it. In the short term, we've got a possible level top here on EUR/USD. A lot less clear where we are in terms of topping pattern here on GBP. I'm not really seeing a decent one. In fact, I'm leaning more towards this possibly being a flag, maybe getting down to the 129, 130 area before possibly going back up and retesting the high. On USD JPY, bigger picture, this leans down. But if the dollar's rallying, then we could easily see a retest of this high here at 162, setting up second high of a double top. And we would see maybe get up a little closer to this nice megaphone trend line that we've got here. I would be upset if this megaphone failed. That would be annoying. And it could then be a big move up. I'm not really seeing that. I can see the yen being that weak, but I'm not seeing the dollar being that strong. Because potentially this is a double bottom, sorry, an IHS forming, and we could see a breakup that could take us a long way up here. I'm skeptical about that happening though. I'd be surprised. In terms of USD CAD, we've got a very nice looking double top here already. We could go back up and retest, set up a nice looking nested double top, but this is one of the reasons I'm thinking we might just stop there at 104 and reverse back down again. Looking at Australian dollar, not a lot to say on this really. I'm leaning towards this rallying sooner or later, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this low retested at 0.55431, I think. No, 0.551, I think. Looking at NZ, we were in this long consolidation. We can certainly go down to the current triangle floor in the 54.90 area, 55 area. So lower than that, I'm a little skeptical. I generally expect these to lean bullish, which would fit with the dollar declining. Sooner or later, I think we will be topping out and we'll be going down. And I am aware that in the event that this fails hard, this flag itself could be the topping pattern as it breaks down against the expectation. On the 30% breakdown, these tend to make pretty good topping patterns, and I'd be looking for a target in about the 80 area, I think. All right, great. Let's have a look at bonds. Okay, bonds, ZB retested the high, possible level top here. ZN, almost retested the high. We got a possible double top here too. 60-minute sell signal already fixed on ZN, and this could be a rising megaphone overthrowing bearishly. We could go directly down from here. Now, if we have a look at the bigger picture charts on these on TYX, we have retested the low. I was looking for a potential level bottom to form here. We now have a nice looking potential level bottom. No current positive divergence on the daily chart. Looking at TNX, on the daily chart, no current divergence either. We've got a nice looking potential double bottom. How could we get some positive divergence? Rally, retest. That would be the usual way. TNX on the hourly chart, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed, which is bullish for yields and bearish, obviously, for bonds themselves. So a nice looking double bottom here. So this could be signaling a significant rise up in yields from 39.70 to about 44.20, i.e. giving back most of this move of since July, but not obviously a huge move. In terms of TLT, we got a potential level top here too, and we're getting close to some pretty significant resistance. No negative divergence here either, nothing worth mention, although we've also got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed here on the hourly chart on TLT, which is leaning bearish for bonds. All right, great. Let's have a look at CL. Right, now on CL, what I've done is I've rolled CL and HO and RBOB all into December. I haven't rolled natural gas yet. That's likely to be sometime next week, possibly at the end of it. All right, looking at CL, this is a nice little sequence here. Falling wedge, long rally, stroke, oversized bear flag, and then they move down here. Now, this is a pretty decent looking, I'm not sure it's quite a channel. Let's have a look at it. That's a wedge. It's a gently contracting falling wedge. And at the moment, I've got a nice looking support trend line here. We're finding support. We've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed. And actually, I've got some positive divergence on the daily as well. I'm thinking this is going to deliver a big rally, but I don't think it's done to the downside yet. Looking at HO, we didn't get any positive divergence here. We lost this buy signal, which failed. Here, we've got another falling wedge, I think. Hang on, wait a second. Yeah. So we've got another falling wedge here, and again, it looks pretty decent. And where I'm looking for a rally here. Now, we haven't broken over declining resistance on either of these yet, but I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to. and deliver a decent rally before we go down and make some lower lows, which don't need to be a lot lower, but need to be some. Looking at RBOB, we've got a nice looking falling wedge here. Again, it's pretty nice. It's not perfect. We saw a break below here and then a recovery here. But this is re-establishing the support trend line support. It's not a bad looking falling wedge. This is a bullish underthrow, and we've got a 60-minute buy signal fix there too. Now that's not going to get it over the declining resistance, but I'm thinking this also looks like bottoming action. So I'm leaning towards seeing a decent rally on oil. NG, we actually saw a big move up here at the open. It went up from basically 3 to 315. That's encouraging because I am thinking that we might be bottoming out here for a fairly sizable move up to the upside in the seasonally strong next couple of months. We might not get that. We will see. But I am thinking that's a very real possibility. We will see how that goes. In the short term, I'm looking for a reversal pattern here, and I've not really got one at the moment. I'm wondering if one might form. We could see a right shoulder pull back from here. If we go up directly, then we might just not get a meaningful reversal pattern, and sometimes you don't get one. But I am thinking this is double bottom resistance, and if we see this break, we can see a big move up, and this is an encouraging move in that direction. Looking at GC, I have been saying in every bigger picture webinar for the last few weeks that I would be strongly inclined not to short any gold or anything associated with it. And of course, we've been going up and up and up into the 4,400 area. We're pulling back a bit from there. I don't have a good setup to suggest this is going to deliver anything more from this. I have been asked a few times whether I think the top is in. I think we'll have a better idea when it's sometime after it's actually in, when we've seen a decent retracement play out, and we haven't seen one of those until since we were forming a flag all the way down here. We've gone up 1,000 since then. I'm really not sure about the pattern here. I'm not even sure we've got a pattern here. We could absolutely go higher. SI, seeing a bit of a pullback here, possible topping action. Not sure I trust that, but we will see. We're back testing basically the broken new all-time high, back testing the old all-time high in the 49.55 at one area at the moment. On palladium, we've seen a decent little retrace here. I'm not seeing an obvious reversal pattern. Seeing a bit of positive divergence here. I haven't marked it in because it wasn't there when I was looking at this earlier. On platinum, doesn't look like double top. Wondering about this possible head and shoulder here. We got a possible weak 6-minute buy signal brewing, but we're pretty close to losing that positive divergence, and we might lose that shortly. HG, I am thinking this may well be topping out, but I'm wondering about a possible retest this high, set up a level top, and then head down into ideally a retest of this low here in the 4.38 area. We will see how that goes. But I think that's the best fit really with what I'm looking at the moment. Looking at okay, let's have a look at both of the bigger picture on both of those. Right, WTIC, heating oil and gas oil all have this falling wedge. It's broken up, and I'm looking for a reversal pattern. Now, gas oil is pretty close to reaching, retesting the wedge support. If that's the case, we could be establishing an alternate support trend line, or we could just be increasing the size of the wedge. We are not close to doing that on WTIC, but if we manage to make it down to hang on, wait a second. If we manage to make it down to this support down here in about the 54 area, we could just expand this wedge too. I'm quite liking this as an overall bullish pattern, and I would say there are reasons to think that we're going to have support down here in the 40 to 60 area. Now, the first thing to mention is America is a big producer of oil at the moment, but most of that oil is not actually, most of that oil costs actually 50 to 60 bucks to get out of the ground. Obviously, we're at the stage where they're break even or making a loss at this stage, most of them. An awful lot of the world producers are paying 40 to 50 bucks. And to be honest, unless we get a major crisis, this likely gives us very, very good support in the 45 to 55 area particularly, and a stage and a point at which I would have thought OPEC would be cutting back production significantly. We will see. I do know that it would appear that the capacity for next year is up by about $3 million, and it looks as though demand is going to fall well short of that. Obviously, that's going to push prices down. But the question is, I'm seeing a potential floor here, 45 to 55, and I'm thinking it might struggle to get below 55. Question is, am I right about that? If I am right about that, then this may well be bullish, and we may well be setting up for a fairly sizable rally. If this was a double bottom that was forming, then on a sustained break over 79, we'd be looking at targeting about 100 area, and that's actually not an unreasonable rally for this move down from this high here at 126.42. Anyway, just throwing it out there, that's a possibility. On WTIC, I've got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing, and the target I've got down here is a retest of this low here at 56.06. Last week it made it down to a low of, and this is on WTIC spot. But I mean, it made a low of 57.16. It would need to go down another $1.10 to retest this low, which would be what I'd be looking for. Looking at heating oil, heating oil is not close to a retest of the low. I would say we're down below. We went back and back tested the monthly pivot on all of these, and we're failing at all of them there. I'm leaning towards seeing a low retest here, but I would say I'm looking for a double bottom here, really, on WTIC. And we're very close to retest the low. This no longer looks like an IHS. On gas oil, we've already got a potential lower bottom. But it might be that on heating oil, that this very nice looking potential inverted head and shoulders here might actually be the pattern. So we don't necessarily need to go back down to the lows. We might do, but if we were to make a low, let's say in about the 2.04 area, which is getting pretty close, then that would be the ideal ideal right shoulder low for an IHS here. So I'm thinking we might have an IHS here and double bottoms on both of the others. All right, in terms of positive divergence on the WTIC chart, obviously we've got a possible daily RSI 5 buy signal brewing. Heating oil, we got nothing. We had some divergence and we lost it. Gas oil, we've got a very nice looking potential RSI 5 buy signal brewing. These would be supporting a rally if we do see it here. We shall see. But I am thinking that this would be a small rally, come back, make some more slightly lower lows, and then we've got a decent shot, and I'll be watching for that. I would say the fundamentals don't look great for that either, but I tend to look at the patterns first and then consider the fundamentals, because just going by fundamentals doesn't tend to get you a full picture. The patterns are bullish here, and that needs to be respected until they start getting damaged. And we are at a potential floor area here, which looks pretty good. So those combination of those two has me leaning bullish starting fairly soon on all of the oils. Looking at natural gas on the monthly chart, we are still holding the monthly middle band. We keep coming back and retesting it, but we've not broken it yet. If we did, and this wouldn't be a great time to do that because we are leaning seasonally long for the next couple of months. But after that, if we break below the monthly middle band, I'd be looking for a retest of these lows, or at least a decent shot at doing that. We will see how that goes. Shorter term, no divergence on the weekly chart, no divergence on the daily chart, but we could fix that with a little bit of a rally here and a retesting, possibly get us a daily RSI 5 buy signal. I am leaning towards a rally here, and I'm wondering if this possibly could be an IHS forming here, although the right shoulder is a little low for that. I'm watching out. We have got this seasonally strong period. I am kind of expecting it to go up a buck, and I'm looking at potential options where that could happen. It isn't necessarily going to happen, but generally speaking, I would expect it to. And this will be the start of the winter period, and this is the time of year where it's generally a pretty solid expectation that natural gas will go up. We've already got a little IHS which broke up here, and that's not quite failed, but it's pretty close to failing. If it fails, we may well see a retest this low here at 2.65. Okay, let's have a look at metals. Okay, looking at gold. Right, looking at gold, first thing to say is one of the targets I was looking at, and I drew in much earlier in this wild collapse upwards. One of the targets I was looking at was this trend line here, and at the moment we're through it. But that's okay, because my preferred trend line was really this one. We will see how that goes. That's quite an ambitious target, but I am thinking this might go up a lot from here. We will see. We're through. That's the only trend I'm really looking at here. We actually had possible monthly RSI 14 and RSI 5 sell signals here. We're on the verge of losing the monthly RSI 5 sell signal here if we close at these kind of levels. In terms of the weekly charts, we've lost the last negative divergence on the weekly chart already. That was at the end of the week. This has been a wild run. And actually, when I was talking about the last consolidation here, I was talking not about that flag. Hang on one second. It's marked in. It's marked in on the weekly chart. I was talking about this. Hang on, where is that? I was talking about this consolidation here. 3,500 to 3,120. Since we broke up from that in the 3,400 area, basically it's gone straight up and done 1,000 in basically a month and a half. It's been an amazing move, and that move may not have finished yet. I have been saying that this is like a trend day. You need to wait to see where it finishes. It could be running out of steam here. We'll see. In the meantime, I do now have some daily negative divergence again. We had a sell signal here, then we were making a potential larger full-size sell signal here, and then we lost that divergence and reset to zero. We've now got some negative divergence again, and we will see. However, until this actually blows out and this trending move finishes, I'm not sure that any of these divergences mean a great deal. All right, looking at the silver chart, I was saying we would break up over 39.14, that I was looking for a retest of the all-time high at 49.51, and, well, here we are. In terms of the monthly chart, no current negative divergence, although we're getting into nosebleed levels. Not nosebleed levels that haven't been seen regularly in the past, but nonetheless nosebleed levels. If we were seeing a major reversal here, I'd be looking for negative divergence on this monthly chart, and currently we don't see it, ideally on the RSI 5. Looking at the weekly chart, no current negative divergence there too, so I wouldn't trust a pullback here because I'd be expecting whatever happened with the pullback, chances are we'd go back and retest the high afterwards anyway. On the daily chart, we got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fix, we got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fix. Both of those could go back, retest the high, and turn into full daily sell signals, which would be encouraging, but they wouldn't be the first ones, that one here, that have failed in the event they fixed and then just run over by the uptrend. In terms of palladium, we had a monthly buy signal that made target. On the weekly chart, we got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing, but it wouldn't take an awful lot to lose that divergence. We are breaking over this trendline resistance here, and this is potentially the start of a sizable breakup. We will see. This could, of course, be a bearish overthrow as well. Keeping an open mind at the moment. Not a lot. This slightly doubtful divergence here, it would be very easy to lose it. On the daily chart, no current divergence, but if we retest the high, of course, we can set up some very nice negative divergence. We've seen a bit of a pullback here. This could be what I was talking about in my expectation on the equities chart. This is a pullback, and this could be the low before the high. If we go back, retest this and fail, then we can set up a nice looking little double top, negative divergence, and that would be a nice topping setup. But we're not here yet. We would need to retest the highs first. Looking at platinum, the monthly chart, no current divergence, but again, we are looking at a potential serious break over resistance here. And this has got a target at a retest of this high here at 22.90. Looking at the weekly chart, possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing, possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing, but obviously we need to see some sustained move to the downside to actually see those fixed. On the daily chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed a while ago, but if we didn't already have one here, another one would have fixed here. And we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed as well. Here, I have actually got a candidate trend line, which looks pretty nice. Waiting to see what this delivers, but this could be the end of this short-term move and setting up a retrace before we go up, and that could, of course, also be suggesting that we see a similar consolidation stroke retracement on the others. Looking at copper, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the monthly. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the monthly, and I'm pretty damn bearish. I am liking the downside here. We've been kind of slow on this the last few weeks. We had this sharp move down, which was based mainly tariff related. But I was saying when we reach this area here that we might be seeing a significant high forming, and at the moment That's looking pretty good. I'm liking a move down. I would like to see a break of some trend lines to the downside. On the daily chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and the RSI 5 sell signals reached the possible near miss target. I'd like to see some more downside, but we might need to see a retest of this high first. Looking at GDX, wild moves here as well. Wow. From the start of 25, this was at 35.4, and it's now got up to 85. That is an incredible move. And it's left the highs made in 2011, which were looking forbiddingly hard to reach because they were so much higher. They've left them in the dust. You will notice that when we actually topped out there, we had a really nice looking topping pattern there. That was looking pretty good. And here, of course, we still haven't necessarily found a high yet. We've got no negative divergence on the weekly chart. It's kind of overbought, but again, could go higher. Looking at the daily chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed. That's encouraging. No sign of a reversal pattern here at the moment. Hourly chart, no current divergence. We've more or less got exactly the same setup on GDXJ, except that hasn't taken out the 2011 high yet and isn't close to it. We will see how that goes, but it's still been a pretty amazing move. We've gone up from, basically in 25, we've gone up from 41.85 to 113. Wow. That is an impressive move. We've gone through all the trend lines I had is in potential here, and we've gone way beyond the 61.8 retracement. I'm expecting to see a retest of this high, but we could see a consolidation first. All right, great. In that case, let's have a look at commodities. So let's have a look first here. KC. We're back above the monthly pivot. I'm leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here in the 424 area. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. Might see some retracement first. SB, we got a weak 60-minute buy signal fixed. I am wondering about whether we'll see a retest of this low and then set up a double bottom and then go up. Looking at CC, this looks like a bear flag. I'm leaning towards seeing a retest of this low in the not too distant future. No divergence. CT. CT, I've got a pretty nice looking trend line here, and we're testing it and breaking it very slightly. This could be setting up for a decent rally. That could be a large move up, but I've got more to say about that on the daily chart, where I'm concerned that we might see a large breakdown soon instead. But it does look as though we might see a decent rally first. Looking at lumber. Lumber looks like a bear flag forming. We've got a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. ZW, possible bottoming action here, trying to break up from this IHS. Well, it's broken up from it. Is it going to make the target here? 511.75 area. Well, it's looking at 506 at the moment. Pretty decent odds that makes target, but it's then got to get through the monthly pivot, of course. On corn, we've broken up over the declining resistance. This is too large to be a double bottom, but it's a resistance area. Watching that, we've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, but I'm feeling pretty good about a retest of this high here too. On soy, bigger picture is a bear flag. And soy's got issues, but short term, this is looking pretty good, and we could be just rejecting from this double top back up into this high here in about the 1029 area. We will see how that goes. But bigger picture, I'm leaning towards the downside, but it doesn't mean that can't go up first. ZL, this looks like a bear flag forming. LE, seeing a bit of retracement here. This doesn't really look like a double top here. And we had a 60-minute sell signal. That's suddenly reached the possible near miss target as we had this fast decline. Not really expecting more from this at the moment. There's nothing in terms of pattern targets suggesting this goes lower. HE, we've got a falling wedge here. It looks pretty good. Hasn't broken up yet, but it's a very nice looking falling wedge. Chances are this will break up into a decent rally soon. In the short term, we've got a possible weak 60-minute buy signal brewing, but I'm mainly looking at the pattern here, and that's looking very good for a rally. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts, and let's have a look at coffee. Alrighty then. Okay, coffee. On the weekly chart, I'm wondering about a possible retest of this high here at 4.408, possibly to make a large double top. And after which, I'm thinking this might go back and start heading back towards the longer term ranges where it's usually traded over the last very long time. Because actually, if I showed you the monthly chart, which I'm not showing here because there's not really any longer term patterns on it, this is really most of its lifetime. It's traded under 2. This move up to 4.408, it was a big departure. We got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed here on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, RSI 14 sell signal fixed, but I am thinking if we can go up and set a retest this high here at 4.41, which we're not necessarily going to manage, but it's promising that we're back over the daily middle band. At that stage, I'd be wondering about a possible nested double top here and a big reversal. Looking at sugar. Sugar, we've got monthly chart here. Slightly alarming looking pattern down, breaking down with a target in the 6.5 to 9 area, but in the shorter term, I'm looking at this falling wedge, which I like a lot. So a nice looking little level bottom here. I'm thinking this overall could be a bull flag. We could be setting up for a big rally here, and I'm watching for that. RSI 5 buy signal fixed and hasn't made target yet. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence, apart from this weak RSI 14 buy signal I fixed quite a while ago. But it's a very nice looking double bottom. I think this has got a shot. We shall see how that goes. Looking at cocoa. Cocoa, again, this was recently, over the last couple of years, has been a major departure from its usual trading ranges. And I'm thinking it might be on the way back down again. It's a bit of relief for all chocolate lovers, of course. This was a significant support break here. I'm not really treating this as a double top, but it's certainly not bullish. And I'm leaning towards this going lower. On the monthly chart, we've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and it hasn't made target yet. On the weekly chart, we've got a weak RSI 5 buy signal fixed. I'm wondering about a bit of a rally here. We will see. Looking at wheat. On the daily chart, we got a very nice looking potential double bottom here. I was looking for a retest this low here at 495. We got 492.5. Beautiful double bottom set up here. This could really run. No current positive divergence though. On corn, again, lovely looking double bottom. Waiting to see how this goes, but we've been trading the weekly middle band for several weeks and it's been holding. So if we can push up from here, I'm thinking we break over this declining resistance here in about the 435 area, and then we're clear to break up from double bottom. Again, we can see a long sustained move to the upside here on corn. On the daily chart, weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed, not taking a lot of notice of that. I'm thinking short term, this is a potential inverted head and shoulders, and we're getting pretty close to possible neckline resistance in the 435 area. We've already got a smaller right chest which is broken up. This would supersede that and set up a target a lot higher, sort of 495 to 505 area. We will see how that goes. Looking at soybeans, bigger picture, as I said, this looks like a bear flag. We're holding the monthly middle band as resistance. Unless that changes, this is probably going to start breaking down soon. Looking at cotton, we've got a lovely looking double bottom here already. It's peachy. It's really nice. But I am wondering if we're going to go back and retest the low anyway. We've failed so far to get over the sustain much trade over the week to middle band. I've got that at 65.16 at the moment. If we can see a sustained break over that, then maybe we can go up directly. Again, I'm thinking we could be looking, with a reservation that we could go lower first, I'm thinking we could be looking at a very extended move to the upside here. Looking at lumber, I'm leaning towards the downside. We've already got a double bottom which has broken down. Short term though, this has been reluctant to roll over. We had a pretty good shot when we had this sell signal fixed, a weak sell signal fixed on the RSI 5. That was competing with this RSI 14 buy signal here, which has now reached a possible near miss target. I'm still leaning towards the downside here. I like this double bottom, and I think it makes complete sense that it head down towards the target, which I think is at a retest really of this low here in the 35250 area. We will see how that goes. I'm liking the downside, but at the moment, not compelling case for it turning over. We will see. All right, great. Let's have a look at crypto. Last one for the night. Now, crypto, we've got this double top here, which is broken down with a target in the 88.3 to 90k area. So the question is, are we going to do that? Not without a rally, I think. And on Bitcoin, obviously we've looking at the daily chart. Daily chart, we've got the daily middle band at 115.768. We tried to break up. We rallied. We tried to break over it. We failed there. I think we might be looking at another try. No current positive divergence on the daily chart though. But the main ones I'm looking at here really, although lovely looking double top here, but looking at Solana, the best fit for the pattern here is Either that we've got a bull flag forming here, or short term that I'm thinking we've got a very possible bear flag forming. And that could take us back up into a retest of the 213 area, and that's where the daily middle band is. I'm thinking, actually, no, that's down at 207 here. That's where the 50 DMA is at 214. I'd like to see this back over the daily middle band and heading higher into at least a retest of 253. But obviously, I'm thinking we may well see a rally here, form a bear flag or a triangle, and it could be that we're going to see some more downside here if we are going to see more downside on equities, which I'm thinking is a very real possibility. We've got government shutdown. I am at the moment basically the amount estimated for a shutdown is moving back by a day by every day for every day that passes. That's not ending anytime soon. There's been a lot of talk about getting into a trade war with China, which I think would be a tremendously bad idea. That would not be good for the market either. So this is sensitive, and equities could well be turning here. And I think we're probably going to be topping out in a few months anyway. But in the meantime, we've still got targets to the upside, and I'm not convinced this is a hard break. And on Solana here, this is a test of 200 DMA. We've tested it twice. So far, it's holding. And as long as it holds, that's not very, very obvious support level. Looking at Ethereum, Ethereum haven't got a big MA that we've been testing like that here, but I'm still thinking we might see a test of the daily middle band, which we already tested once, but I think we might get another test in the 4200 area. We will see. But I think really on here, if we see a hard breakdown on equities, chances are that will be followed on crypto. So we'll see. All right, great. In that case, everyone take care. I'll catch you guys again on Wednesday. And I hope you had a great weekend. Take care.